The ice cream van. I don't know if you can.
No.
Kind of want to run out and get one.
I don't think there is an ice cream van around here. I've never seen one.
Mate, there's a gap in the market. You need to fucking capitalize that shit.
I remember the ice cream man round where I grew up used to sell drugs from his van.
Reminds me of, do you ever play Vice City where you have to get the ice cream?
Yeah, it was just like that. There's a fucking. Do you remember Shameless? There's an episode of that where the main character ends up getting hired as an ice cream man and sells drugs from the
ice cream van.
van.
Yeah, I remember.
God, I used to watch Shameless quite a lot. And the American one seems to be still pretty popular.
I think I watched it and I don't understand it, but then I realized it's not really for me. It's kind of the American poverty benefits people, which we've got absolutely nothing about. Like the British one, obviously you clearly know what the stereotypes are behind it and everything.
Oh,
people start like stuff. So I watched it and it's got William H. Macy.
Yeah, he's Frank Gallagher.
He's a proper slob. It's so funny.
I've not seen him do anything other than that for fucking years as well.
I think the last thing I saw him in that comes to my mind was Mystery Men. I fucking love that.
Oh, there was an article on Mystery Men a while ago, actually.
Just basically saying like take the piss out superheroes before it was cool or something.
Yeah, basically that was kind of the long and short of it. It's like ahead of its time, basically. Yeah, I'm just having a look here. Actually, it's so Shameless. It's still going as far as I can tell in America. It started in 2011 by the looks of it. God, so the English one was 2004 because god damn, I remember. Yeah, I was in school when it fucking was on. But I remember with the English one, it was written by Paul Abbott, who is a fairly good, he's a fairly prestigious British TV writer, and he's done a lot of good stuff. And he did the first 2 seasons, I think, and then after he left, I always felt like the whole show just kind of unraveled and became a bit of a caricature.
Kind of jumped the shark as well later on.
Oh, completely.
But really, really just, yeah. It had its moments, don't get me wrong. I think the last season had its moments, but yeah, I agree with you. The first couple of seasons were amazing.
It feels like the first couple of seasons are like a really good drama with that just happens to be very funny at the same time. And then kind of season 3 on, it just gets more and more about the comedy.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like I always find it weird, and this happens with a lot of kind of sitcoms as they get more developed, they kind of start leaning back into their own mythology. I think American things are a lot more guilty of this because British things tend to last a few seasons then finish. When something goes on longer, like American shows, they tend to do this. But I remember in the first couple of seasons, was it the Maguires were in as guest stars, and they were just like this horrendous. They were like the horrible family on the estate. Like they were into crime. There was all the kind of
they were really hardcore. And then
they were like faceless. Like it was all the faceless brothers. The only one who had a name really was Mandy, who was the young daughter of the family. I can't remember the actor's name, but he's an Irish actor who's in Sharp with Sean Bean as well, I believe, I remember writing. But he was the head of the family, played Paddy, and he was like former IRA or something, or had links to the IRA. And then he had his horrendous Scouse wife, and they were like hardcore. And then eventually they just became kind of lovable rogues. They were main characters, and it was just diluted the whole thing.
They're just being completely declawed.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it. And just random things like I can't remember her name, but one of the main characters, or one of the characters, I think Frank ended up living with her, or marrying her, was the woman who was is she agoraphobic, where she couldn't leave the house.
Yeah.
And her daughter was really sleeping with one of the main family, the Gallagher one. Was it Lip Gallagher?
It just got really fucking.
But eventually she became a main character, like running the pub. The daughter, like the slutty daughter.
She married one of the. She was with one of the other guys. I can't remember.
Did she not marry a fucking Maguire, like one of the brothers?
Might be.
Because they definitely retconned it so that the brothers, all of a sudden, instead of being these kind of edgy, faceless thugs, they became kind of like they recast them. I'm pretty sure they recast a lot of them and then made them legit characters. It was weird, but yeah, it definitely fell victim to that kind of, as I say, something leaning back into its own mythology too much as it goes on and becoming a caricature. Some American sitcoms do it. I think Friends did it particularly badly. If you watch Friends at the start and the characters are completely different to how they are at the end, like
Oh yeah,
if you take Matt LeBlanc's character Joey, he is he's dumb, but he's like street smart and a bit, he's kind of like he gets by, he's a bit of a charmer, but by the end of it, he's literally a fucking drooling moron.
yeah.
It's just a fucking weird thing that happens. But yeah, British sitcoms tend to last like 5 seasons at most, and I think that's even pushing it.
Yeah. There's only a few. Like, I mean, that's the Summer Wine.
Oh shit!
I think it's like 40 years or something ridiculous. But I mean, that is kind of the outlier. Most of them just don't last that long. Or even the seasons are like 6 episodes or something. That's it.
Well, yeah, it's like a couple of seasons of 6 episodes, and then it's done. Very few get to kind of go beyond that. I mean, I was always a huge fan of League of Gentlemen, and they keep occasionally doing new stuff. They did stuff last year.
Yeah, they do a lot of live stuff as well. Actually, I don't know if they're still doing that.
They hadn't done anything for years, and then they did the Christmas special last Christmas, so like Christmas 2017, I think. And it was like an hour-long episode. Or it was two episodes that fit together, and it was weird because it kind of felt like half a series. It kind of ended on a real abrupt note, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird." But then they announced a live tour for the same year, and we went to see it in the summer of the same year,
Yeah.
and it was
Continuation.
it was split into 2 halves. The first half was just like little kind of new sketches and stuff, which was really good. But the second half was literally the second half of the season and finished off that storyline.
Pretty cool.
It was really good. But even them, they did like the first and second series were their kind of sketch. I always say it's a weird formula, the League of Gentlemen, because it's a sketch show with like 3 actors playing the vast majority of the parts, but it's also a sitcom in that there's an established storyline. It moves through time along a kind of central plot all around this town. It's weird. It's like a weird fusion of sitcom and sketch show. And I used to fucking love that. But yeah, they still do something. The live stuff was really good last year. I think part of the reason I like them so much is there's a lot of people who think they're way too dark for comedy. I just think that's fucking
no,
funny.
I think there's much darker stuff. I think some of it can be, and some of it is maybe strong, but I don't think it's really that dark. I think there's.
No, it's not.
Do you
It's
ever
not
watch,
malicious.
Monkey Dust.
Oh yeah, but I'd say Monkey Dust was like malicious with it though. Like it's horrible.
But I think that's my definition of that'd be my example of like really black dark comedy.
But yeah, so I can't even remember how we got onto Shameless and all this other stuff. Yeah, so should we start the show?
Yeah, let's go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right then, welcome to the pad. It is the 8th of August. Jesus Christ, I can't believe it's the 8th of August. It's flying over. And we're here. It's me and you, Cash.
Just you and me.
Matty's not here. He's on shift, so he can't make tonight's show. So we've got to fly solo. Sure we'll soldier on and manage. But yeah, welcome to the pad. It's another glorious week. I can't believe it's rolled around so quickly. The summer, man, it's not a good time for video games. Nothing's really coming out.
Yeah, it seems to be more on the shows. I know there's Gamescom coming up, and we've had E3 towards kind of the end of last month, and then we've got TGS and the German one later on. So I think that's where the focus is. So it's really just a countdown towards the holiday season.
Yeah, we were kind of, me and the wife were toying with seeing if we could go to Gamescom this year a while ago. But
Yeah.
we decided against this year just because it's a bit of a quiet year for releases. We're at the tail end of a generation, and B, we just got married and can't afford like another trip just yet. It's
that card, yeah.
But we are thinking about going next year because it'll be hopefully the year of new consoles.
Well, I'm in all seriousness. I said to my friend, he said about 2 years ago we should go to E3, and I said, well, look, we're kind of at the lull at the end of a generation. It's pretty rubbish at the moment. Let's wait till next gen, give it a couple of years, and then go. Because I remember kind of mid PS4, Xbox One, there's really big announcements. There was the Resident Evil, the Final Fantasy remake, Shenmue 3, to kind of name a couple. And I was like, if I was there, I would have lost my mind. So I'm kind of thinking in maybe 2-3 years, I'd like to do something like that, go away for a week and go to E3 if I can. That's in the next generation, kind of when it's kind of halfway through or midway through it.
Yeah. I think Gamescom's quite good for us because it's literally a hop across the Germany. It's really not that far. But E3 is the big one. If it's still around in a few years, the way things are going. Yeah. I'm sure it will be in some way, shape, or form, but lots of people seem down on E3 at the moment. And yeah, this year wasn't great, but like you say, it's the end of a generation. Kind of everyone expected that. I think in one of our first shows, we said we expected that. So I don't know why everyone suddenly takes it as a massive surprise.
Runs its course, but in terms of scale, I don't think there's anything. I mean, maybe Gamescom, maybe TGS.
I think
E3 is definitely still the global one. Like TGS seems to be kind of very much Japan. Gamescom, I don't want to say it, but it seems like a diet E3. Like,
it is. It's European. We're not as big on the development front, and even the ones who are based here go to E3.
Yeah,
like you say, TGS is very Japanese focused. It's not really, I imagine TGS is really good, and there's sometimes really good announcements there because they save a lot of the Japanese game announcements for TGS rather than E3. But tell you what, it's not long since I've been to Tokyo. It's a fucking long way to go for a weekend convention.
Yeah, you'd have to spend a few days there. It could be just a weekend.
Oh, yeah, seriously, if you're not going for at least a week, I'd question going there. I mean, it's literally the best part of 24 hours traveling, if not a full 24 hours. Like we took a 7-hour flight to Dubai and then a 9-hour flight to Tokyo from there, plus getting from the home to the airport, getting from the airport on the other side to your hotel, all the time zones that come with that. It's
I mean, no wonder you don't want to go to Germany. It's not the money so much. He's sick of planes now, I imagine.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, to be honest, we went on Emirates, and Emirates is probably nicer than a lot of short haul flights, but yeah, it's still stuck on a plane for that long. It's not the most fun, but hey, I managed to squeeze in about 20 hours of Final Fantasy 12 on the Switch, so wasn't at all. I was literally playing it on the way back and just falling asleep as I was playing. I was that tired. I was just nodding off, like literally just like fucking like like when children do that, where they just kind of off. I was doing that.
Even when you're watching TV, you kind of wake up halfway through a show and you're like, I need to close my eyes. What the hell's happened? Yeah, I know that feeling. Speaking of what you're playing on the plane, what have you been playing this week?
I am forever playing through Shadowbringers still. It's still really good. Not getting tired of it yet, but nothing new on that front really. Just plugging away. I mentioned that I had picked up Fire Emblem Three Houses last week and hadn't really got that far. I'm about 12 hours into it now. I still don't feel like I've seen, in true Japanese fashion, I feel like the game is still in a protracted tutorial.
Tip of the iceberg, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm still really enjoying that game. It's weird because like you I mentioned it's a kind of tactical RPG, a turn-based strategy game, whatever you want to call it. Final Fantasy Tactics, that type of Disgaea, that type of style of game. Mm-hmm. But it feels like even though I'm so early into the game, I am going to be hitting like fairly high levels and ranks with characters very early on. And I'm like, so the level cap, as far as I'm aware, I could be wrong on this, but everything I've seen suggests it's about 30 per character. And I've got characters hitting 20 already and getting into like the second tier of class roles that you can unlock. And there's only like 4 tiers or 3 tiers. It's unusual. So
do you think it's maybe a foreshadowing of something going on, like you lose XP, or there's going to be a bigger threat, and then suddenly you can go to like level 40? Or
I think will be that it's because you've got a lot of control over what you can spec your characters. So like you can say to one character, "Hey, you should focus on leveling up your spear, your lance skill, your spear skill, or and your heavy armor skill, or whatever." And then pretty early on, by the sounds of it, it feels like we're going to hit the high levels of that fairly quickly. And I suppose then you could say, okay, now you need to focus on your swordsmanship instead of your lance skills, and that will allow you to train them into various different classes. And then before a battle, you could swap them up depending on what you need. It gives you a lot of flexibility.
Okay.
And I mentioned like basically the kind of framing of the game is you're a professor in this military academy. You pick your house, you look after your children, you kind of lead them in battle and teach them. Nintendo made it like a public
Child soldiers, basically.
Basically, they're all like 17, 18.
I mean, I'm assuming it doesn't tackle it the same way that Metal Gear Solid 5 tackles it, you know.
No, it's far more realistic. No, it's very anime, you know, like everybody's fucking 13 but looks 26. But Nintendo made it known that there's a big time skip in this game, kind of the halfway mark, and you will see these characters kind of mature into full adults and develop different altered personalities depending on what happens in the story. I am not that far through, but I know that is a thing that happens. So I get the impression the first half of the game is you at the academy, training them up, shaping these young people, trying to recruit extra people from the other houses where you can. And then the second half of the game is them as adults, and I believe it may be like all-out war between the three kingdoms involved, and you're kind of stuck in the middle of it all and all the rest of it. So but I mean, the whole thing is compelling. It is really, really interesting turn-based strategy, RPG, gameplay, and then really fucking oddly compelling Japanese soap opera on the other side. You basically can just spend your days wandering around this academy, this monastery, and just talking to people.
I was going to say, can you attend lessons and things like that? Or?
Yeah, so like it's all organized on a calendar, and you will go along a schedule, and like Monday will roll around, and you'll have to plan lessons and say, right, this is what we're going to do this week. I'm going to tutor you 3 people or you 4 people, and I'm going to swap your focuses for this week, so you train up in different skills this week. I'm going to pair up you 2 to do this task, like brush the horses and clean out the stables, or weed the gardens, or so they're very mundane tasks. And then the third option is you need to.
And you're 12 hours in on this, man.
Yeah. There's all sorts. I've been unlocking new stuff, but so you got the two group tasks. You got 3 group tasks, but the first one is, as I say, clean the stables. Second one is weed the garden. The third one is like weirdly exciting, considering how mundane the other ones. It's get on a Pegasus and patrol the skies around the monastery. You're like, fucking hell, who doesn't want to do that? Who wants to weed the garden instead?
Escalated, does it? Yeah. Oh, I got weeding duty today. Hey, yeah. Oh, I've got Pegasus duty. Let's ride
a fucking dragon today. Yeah, so I unlocked the last thing I unlocked, and this is definitely fucking anime wafu fucking territory. It's inviting people to tea parties. So to bolster your relationship with somebody, you can invite them to a tea party, and it's this fucking almost creepy mini game where you sit like first person looking at them, and you basically get presented like different topics of conversation, and you've got to pick the one you think they'll be interested in, and you score points between
based on reading the language and
and if you do have a good tea time with them, you can like then do this thing where it's like, oh, you can continue chatting with them, and it's basically just this weird like almost like 3D model view where you're just staring at them, and you can zoom in on them and go like move the camera around them, and then do prompts like I don't know, nod along to what they're saying, or it's just fucking weird, like very soap opera-y type thing. I've done it a few times to like score points with people and then quickly moved on, but it's uncomfortable. It's odd. But yeah, like generally speaking, I'm really enjoying it. You know, it's been getting really good reviews, and I think it definitely deserves that. It's a lot of game, which is not probably not the most sensible choice by myself, seeing as I'm struggling to get through everything I've got anyway.
Well, I mean, is it improving your social queue when you sit down for lunch at work? Are you nodding your head? Are you choosing the right topics?
What, in real life?
Yeah. When you talk about the game, I'm talking real life, man. This is some kind of
no. Well, people just look at me and go, "Why the fuck would I want to come to a tea party with you?" But no, what I have kind of resorted to taking my Switch on my commute with me into work because my wife drives in and I tend to drive back. And we just car share, so I'll just sit there quiet, going, "Shut up! I don't want to talk." I'm trying to move my little men around the field here and have tea parties with anime girls. But
Absolutely, priorities.
well, you got to get things, straight in life, and Fire Emblem's where it's at the moment. So I'm just chipping away at that. It's really good. I said last week I was going to do a video of it when I'm deeper into it. I'm probably getting to the point where I think I've got enough to show off. So I'll probably do a quick video on it to put on the YouTube channel this week. If I get the chance. I imagine that it will be a long video just by sheer nature of the game. Battles take a long time to play through.
Yeah.
The soap opera stuff is all very plodding in Japanese. That makes it sound very bad, but it's not. No, I'm really enjoying it. I just hope I don't do this typical thing with JRPGs of kind of getting to grips with the systems, getting about 25 hours in, and then tailing off. What I did do, and it did slow my progress down. I got about 4 hours into the game, and I picked classic mode. Classic normal mode, I think it's called. So there's two ways to play. There's classic, which is basically your characters die and they are dead forever. It's permadeath. And then there's casual, which is if they die, they're just out of the battle. They come back afterwards, and it's fine. You carry on.
Okay.
Then there's normal and hard difficulties, and you can choose like casual or classic, and then hard or normal. So the easiest is casual and normal. The hardest is classic with hard. Permadeath with hard difficulty. I originally chose the classic with normal difficulty, thinking, fuck it, I'm hardcore enough. I'll do permadeath. And I just started getting into the first few battles, and I just couldn't do them without one character dying or another. I just couldn't. There was always some fucking stupid mistake, and the enemy's the AI is clever enough that if one of your guys is wounded, they will dogpile the fucking poor bastard.
Yeah,
and just
if we're going now, we're going to take that fucker with us. Yeah.
So I basically thought, you know what, I'm 4 hours in. This is fucking bullshit. I am not reloading every battle just to get my men through all the time. There is a rewind mechanic, but you can use a limited amount of times and stuff. And it's always a choice between how far you can rewind every turn you've done till the beginning of the battle, but it's kind of deciphering what was the moment that I fucked myself here. And so basically, I kind of made the decision. I was like, "Fuck this! I can't live with this. It's going to take me long enough to play through this anyway without micromanaging everybody through it." So I restarted the game basically just on the casual mode. And
okay, so you put about 4 hours in and restarted.
Yeah, but I made my time back up in 2 hours because I was skipping through all the story. I was brute forcing all the tutorials and battles, and I just went through it. I just tore through it. So one of the things I've heard is it takes about 60 to 80 hours to play through the main game. And probably like 2/3 of that again if you play through another campaign with a different house, just because you are far more capable, far more knowledgeable, and can just tear through it. So I did lose a little bit of progress, but I'm about 12 hours in on my new file. And I was going to say, to be honest, I haven't really had a lot of time to play games this week, but I've still managed to rack up 12 hours of fucking progress on Fire Emblem and do all the weekly
fucking
stuff.
Casual, that's nothing.
It's not. I feel it. I feel deprived this week. I don't know what the hell I've been doing. I just haven't felt like I've had a lot of time to sit down and just hammer through things for extended periods of time. So it is what it is, It's not not great, but yeah, that's my main one.
Watch next week. You'll be like, it was just a short one. Only put about 10 hours into it.
I got through a few seminars, a few lectures.
I know. For a married man with a full-time job, that's still a lot of money, man. As a family man, I wish I had 10 hours to fucking play.
Well, yeah, it's not a lot of time for a fucking JRPG though. It's
drop of the ocean. It's almost a second. I remember this was 2008, 2009. Final Fantasy 13 came out, and I took a week off just to play it.
Is that the last time you ever got to do that?
Pretty much. I took a week off to play it, and it was literally my 9 to 5 from Monday to Friday, and I finished it about 5 o'clock on the Friday, and I was waking up at about 8, getting ready, having breakfast, 9 o'clock, playing it, and then finishing about 5, 6 o'clock, and Monday to Friday.
It's fucking good though when you've got a game that's so good that you will wake up to play it. Like,
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, I know there's a lot of people hating on Fantasy 13, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good game, and I'm glad I took the time off. I wouldn't be doing anything else more productive, I'll be honest. So,
well, talking about taking time off, I've got a week off in September for Monster Hunter.
Nice.
Well, I mean, it's kind of multi-tiered. So Monster Hunter comes out on the 6th, I'm going to say. I'm doing the Great North Run on the 9th, or the 8th, even Sunday the 8th.
You'd be running that in record time. You want to run home and play Monster Hunter.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's going to be me, my like reward for getting through it all. So yeah, basically, it's kind of partly to recover from the Great North Run, partly just to play Monster Hunter. Mainly to play Monster Hunter. It's just a fucking excuse. I'm not even running the Great North Run. I've just said that.
I've hurt my leg. Can't walk on it. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not off the whole week. I'm going on the Tuesday just for something I need to do at work, but I am off the rest of the week, and so is the wife, and we're both literally like, we're just gonna fucking hunt monsters all week, aren't we? Yeah, that's what we do. So I'm gonna be playing that loads, and it's a while since I took. I take the odd day off to play games and stuff like that, or an extended weekend. But I can't remember the last time I took a week off to play something. Like, I probably haven't since I was at school, and it just so happened to line up with school holidays.
Yeah.
Which is fucking quite well.
It's a really good feeling when that happens.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's awesome. I like doing like big launch day initiatives. Like, I remember when Destiny 2 came out, like 2 years ago now. I'm gonna say. I remember like me and the wife, me and Kelly were playing. Got it and played it. And like, she brought her PlayStation into the office where all my stuff's set up. And Simon, our friend Simon, also came over, and he brought his PlayStation, and we just had like 3 of us all in the same room. Like no need for headsets, just talking, and we just like hammered through as a fire team, and it was fucking great.
It's LAN without being in LAN at that point. I mean, you're still on the same network and everything, but it's playing an online game. It still has all the classic hallmarks of sitting together and playing a LAN game. I bet that was awesome.
Yeah, it's great. So it's a lot of fun. I think the time before that, the last I probably had a less enjoyable experience because it came out on the Friday, so I took the Friday off and the Monday off to have a long weekend to play through Mass Effect Andromeda, and
whoa, I'm sure that was well aged.
It wasn't good,
mate. Regretted later on.
Well, I cracked it. I think I finished it by the Sunday of that weekend, so at least I had the Monday to claw back some time. I remember just getting there on the Sunday night and just thinking, I just want this to finish now. I'm not really enjoying this. I'm sticking with it in case all of a sudden it gets better, but it didn't. Not really. So yeah, maybe that's why I haven't done it since. It's just left a bad taste in my mouth. I think God, it was this year. It feels like a long time ago but it's not. I think when Apex came out, I probably should have taken the week off because I barely got any sleep that week.
Oh yeah. I remember we had some late ones, man.
We
got work. Oh, we can't leave on a loss. Oh, we can't leave. We're so close to victory. We could do it that time, and every round just seemed to be loud. Just one more round.
I think I was like 4 hours sleep some nights and not much more on the good nights. Like it was, I hit that game so hard. It was great. Yeah, so I digress. So, you were very kind, mate. You asked me what I was playing. So what have you been playing?
Oh, well, thank you very much. I have been playing more of Division 2. I managed to get to the next world tier, so it's kind of the next range of levels. So I think it's between 300 and 325, if I'm correct. So my gear is about 300 at the moment. And I'm just going through it.
The cap's 500, isn't it?
If I remember rightly. Still 500 as far as I know. The reason I think it is because every other player that I see in the hubs tends to be about 498 or 499. So I'm thinking,
Well, it's funny because our friend Alex, he's been playing the Division quite a while now. He probably picked it up about 3 weeks after I did, and he's still playing on it. And he has been stuck on 499 gear score for about 2 months now.
Jesus Christ. I think I've
He
only
just-
ever seen one guy level 500 to kind of confirm that the cap was 500.
I'm not even sure, like, whether it's just a case of you eventually run the risk of never getting better gear for the stats and the spread than you do for the
I
value.
imagine a lot of builds are just 500 for the number. Like the stats make absolutely no fucking sense. They don't
Well, I
link
mean, that's
together.
what
but
counts, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's the big
yeah.
number.
So I've been playing a lot of that. It still feels relatively fresh. I still like kind of the dynamic of the open world. You could be running somewhere and there'd be kind of a hostage situation, or there could be a checkpoint that's fallen. Let's go take it back. Or they could be carrying some supplies. Or hey, I need some more materials for crafting. Let's go get those guys. So I think that's still quite good. I'm still playing with a friend, so socially it's still quite a good game to good. Trolls as well. I mean, I'm really getting into the firing mechanics and the cover system. I think it's really good. Even if you get flanked, as long as you kind of keep a level head and kind of have a rough idea of the layout of the room and where to go, you're okay. The only time when it gets really silly is when you come out of cover, you think, oh, I need to kind of hop over this wall, and then everyone will just pop their head out at the same time and just unload everything into you, and you just go down. It seems almost unfair, but I'm sure that's just the game's way of saying, no, you can't play that way. This is the way you got to play.
You ain't 500 yet. You can't do that.
Yeah, pretty much, yep. Story-wise, I mean, that was kind of, I've been reading a lot of the reviews when it came out. That was one of the big weaknesses. I think it still is. The storytelling is really quite bad. But the gameplay is
we were talking about
good,
that
very
last
strong.
time, and it's the storytelling's non-existent. It's bad, and it's frustrating because that was one of the better aspects of the original game. But I still like the Division 2. It's not that I stopped playing it because I didn't like it, or I even got bored. I just kind of tailed off onto other things, like I tend to do. Have you done any of the like kind of hidden stuff, like the hunters or anything like that yet?
You mean the bounties or?
No, so there's so I don't know if you'll have done this, but there is a mission somewhere in the game. I can't really remember what triggers it or when you do it, but you will get a distress call from a division agent, and you'll go into a room, and he's kind of like strung up, dead, and all of a sudden the power's cut. You get hit by a gas grenade, and this guy who's like wielding shade tech like yourself just ambushes you, and it's basically like he paralyzes you and just like fucks your team up and then disappears.
Yeah, this an anomalous mission. I did that, and I haven't really seen anything as a follow-up, or maybe I've just not stumbled across it yet.
Well, you won't, because what that does is it triggers the hunters being unleashed into the world, and basically they are pretty tough mini bosses that exist in the world but can only appear under certain circumstances. Generally, it has to be nighttime, and because you can't control the time of day, it's sometimes a bit awkward to get them to summon. But there's like, I'm going to say 8 to 12 of them. I can't quite remember how many, but they all have individual masks, like hockey mask style things with different patterns on them. And basically, if you track them down, manage to summon them into your instance and kill them, you will get their mask to wear. And there's like a special command center in the basement of the White House where there's a rack, and every time you kill one, their mask gets put on this rack, and you can build up like the full collection.
See, I know in the apparel screen, you've got everything. You've got like trousers, shoes, face masks. Well, like bandanas, not face masks, or kind of neckwear. And then there's like you said, like ski mask section. And there's nothing ever in there. I thought, maybe this is like premium only. I never kind of give much attention, but it sounds like it's kind of what you mentioned.
It tends to be like end game activities, because there's a black tusk mask you can get, which looks like a full face gas mask and stuff. But I can't remember. I think that was from a timed event. But the hunters are good. They're tough. They're basically like rogue division agents. They use all the same gadgets you do. Some of them can hack your abilities. So like one of them, I put a turret down, and he hacked it and turned the turret onto me. And because my turret was so fucking strong, I just could not destroy this turret. It's good. And some of them fly solo, and they're the easy ones, or the ones you fight in groups. There's even like one, I think you fight in a group of 4, so it's effectively fighting like another group of division agents.
Right, so it's like 4-on-4 or something. Yeah,
it's fun. Like it's cool trying to track them down. Some of them are really abstract. Like one of them is like find a hidden base under the Washington Monument. There's a map on the wall with a circle thing and a moon drawn next to the circle, which means go here at night. you go there at night. There's like another monument. You salute it 3 times, and he spawns in, and it just crazy stuff like that. It's like stuff like how the fuck did people figure this out?
There's no way I'd stumble across that in game. It's just it's like ARG almost. It's kind of something that happens outside the game that people do in the game. They get rewarded for it. Yeah.
So, I mean, some of them, don't get me wrong, some of them are easy. Like the one who ambushes you in that mission, if you finish that mission and go into that building, there's like an atrium in the middle you can get to. If you walk up into the high part of the atrium and look at the windows on the side of the building, there are targets, like kind of firing range targets. If you shoot a single bullet in each of them from top, working your way down, he will summon in the atrium below you, and you can get to fight him. It's like stuff like that. There's another one where there's like a square building with a courtyard in the middle of it, and in the north and south entrances there's a telephone on each desk. If you go to the north one, you can use the telephone. If you quickly sprint to the south entrance as quickly as you can use the telephone there, which will then summon the hunter in the middle courtyard. He's pretty easy to summon, because what you can do is every time you go there will always be enemies there. It's like a hotspot for enemies. Don't kill the enemies, just trigger the phones, and hunters are considered hostile to everybody, and just let the enemies kill him.
Yeah, they just turn around and face him, yeah.
Although
group together to face the bigger threat. I like that. Quite good.
He does tend to kill them all, though, but you can then pick him off. But the hunters are really fun. They can be frustrating to summon, because, as I say, it's got to be night. Some of them are really specific. Some of the summon conditions feel a little bit flaky. There was one where you had to stand on a specific spot in a monument and saluted it like 3 times. I think I mentioned that one before. And I had to salute it about 20 times before he triggered.
Oh my God.
And that's also, what seems to happen as well, though, is if they kill you, and especially like if your group wipes on them, basically, and you go back to spawn, if you go back, they'll be gone. You will not be able to resummon them in that instance again. You basically have to come out the game fully and go back into a fresh instance to resummon them. If you do that, though, it's probably going to be fucking 9 o'clock in the morning again. You've got to wait like quite a while for it to become nighttime again. So it's not the slickest thing in the world. It's got to take some dedication, or at least a coordinated group effort. But it's interesting. I'd seriously just say have a look them up and do a few, and it's a nice little few nice collectibles. I think if you do all of them, or at least enough of them, every time you kill one, I think you get an ivory key. And in the White House, there's an ivory chest.
Yeah.
If you get like 8 or 10 keys, you can unlock that. And I think it gets you white ivory dye for your clothes.
White House, white ivory.
I think I'm talking about from memories about 3 months old here, but I think that's what it all is. But yeah, I like the Division. What's your go-to weapons?
So I've got 2. Kind of main and offhand. The main one is usually an LMG or an assault rifle. I'll kind of switch between them, because I kind of short to mid range. You can't go wrong with those. So at the moment I've got like a variant of the AK rifle. It's heavy hitting. It's got enough kind of magazine and ammo, but its weakness with the AKs is the accuracy. But that's okay. You can kind of put in little attachments to your guns and stuff, to kind of increase that. On the second weapon, I've got a sniper rifle, so that's kind of for fast stuff. And I've got loads of stats and on my gear to kind of increase headshot damage and increase rifle damage and marksman rifle damage. So,
are you a marksman sharpshooter specialist?
Yeah, I was to begin with, and then I've kind of switched up just to change the flavor a bit to a demolitionist.
I was a demolitionist there. I was demolitionist with heavy box-fed LMGs and SMGs for close range, and Jesus, like so good.
Yeah, I've used a shotgun once or twice, but I prefer to have a sniper rifle than a shotgun, because I think my main machine gun can do the same job as a shotgun, really short range.
I think the shotguns are underpowered in this game, like mega underpowered. I think enemy shotguns are like fucking mini nukes.
Oh my God,
your shotguns.
I think it's the True Sons. There's a guy that just comes at you with a shotgun, and if you get like the armored version of him, I drop everything and go for him, because he just takes me down in like 3 hits. Man, it's crazy.
I know exactly who you mean. They're fucking impossible.
And I've still got the drone and the seeker as my abilities, and they're quite good. I kind of switch to variants of those depending on the situation, but they're kind of. Again, I know I mentioned last week there was the other ones as well. I can't remember which you mentioned actually. The was it the Hive? It might be the Hive.
The Hive's really useful. The
Hive Live.
Revive one's quite good because basically you can just throw it out and it will bring people back.
Revive was going to be, yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, those are my guns that I like. And just standard pistol. I had a sawn-off shotgun for a long time.
I quite like them.
A gold
Like-
one because it just did stupid damage. Like I'd be down to nothing, and then you'd have two yellow armored levels coming up to you, and then the shotgun would take one of them out, and I was like, "Yeah, man, this is so good."
It's fucking stupid. Yeah. I shotguns are shit, but sawn-offs are quite a lot of fun. Like I never use my pistol anyway, so just to have a sawn-off in my pocket for those special occasions was a lot of fun.
Yeah, same for me. It was very rare. I think I'd only when it starts panicking and people running at you, and I couldn't switch to my main gun because I was reloading, and my sniper rifle isn't very good at close range. So pull out the shotgun and just fucking leather them. That's probably the only time I'd pull it out. So yeah, Division. That's what I'll be playing a lot. I imagine I'll be playing that again this time next week. So stay tuned. The other game I'll be playing, game on the PlayStation Plus this week, is the Sniper Elite 4.
Oh shit! I forgot about that coming out. I will probably try that actually.
There was two games. There was Wipeout Omega Collection, which I already have.
Yeah, I do as well.
Fantastic
for
for
the VR?
virtual reality. Yeah, for virtual reality, absolutely fantastic. I've put so many people who have played Wipeout who kind of know the track, but have never tried VR. And I've put it in VR, and they've just fucking lost their mind. You know, when you kind of go under, over, around.
Oh, it's crazy. It's so well done as well, and there's a lot of settings. You can put the blinkers on the side and make it a bit more tolerable. You can do different control schemes. It's awesome. It is genuinely
You can change the camera.
Pleasure.
It could be kind of anchored to the ground, or if you want to have a really good time, anchor it to your ship, and you just fucking. I was getting motion sickness within like a couple of races. It was.
Oh god, yeah. Again, VR. It's not something I can play for huge amounts of time. My friend John, you've met John. He I think he got rid of his VR just because he wasn't using it. But there was a time where he fucking hammered it, and I remember him telling me he spent 6 hours running in Wipeout in VR, and I was just like, how have you stomached it? But he fucking loved it, man. So yeah, it's definitely an immersive experience to say the least.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And then so the other game, which I've already got and I've already played, so there's no need to go with that. So then, as I mentioned, I got Sniper Elite 4, and I've played the demos. I think it was Sniper Elite 2 and the original, and I liked them. I just never got around to buying them. And I saw Sniper Elite 4 was on sale recently, and I was tempted to buy it. You know, this is one of those games I could just have a blast on. It'd be good to buy it, and I was just bought for a reason. And you know, there we go, divine intervention. There's a reason for it. I got it free anyway.
Is this the one where you get sniped by shoot off Hitler's ball?
Essentially, yeah. It's the set in World War II. This particular one is set in kind of at the moment where I'm at the moment is in Italy. So it's kind of the assault on the Italian coastline and the Italian cities and villages. Still very strong Nazi presence, but yeah, absolutely. So you're a sniper. The idea is you stay silent, you stay moving, you pick your shots, you scope out areas, and then when you shoot an enemy, depending on how you shot them, the velocity and the area where they shot them, you'll get kind of a cutscene, and it will either pierce through their head. You can see the head splitting open. It'll pierce through their eye, and you see the eye rupturing. It'll pierce through the internal organs. You see the bullet kind of ricocheting in between the organs, or like you say, you can hit them in the balls and you kind of testicle and stuff. I haven't gone. Yeah, it is actually a lot of fun because it doesn't happen every single time you take a shot. And there's been times when I'd be panicking and I'd be like, "Fuck, I need to take this guy out," and it's just kind of a really sweet moment where you've taken off a shot. It's almost been at random, and you can just see the trail of the bullet, and the camera's following it, going down, 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 kind of in between buildings and through windows and past cars, and you just kind of hit somebody in the face, and it really is satisfying. I do have to say though, it kind of wore off on me. I did the first couple of missions, took me about 2-3 hours, and I was like, yeah, I'm kind of done now. I can put this away to one side.
I think that's the problem with such a game with such a narrow focus. Obviously, it does sniping and everything in a lot of detail, but there's a lot of games that do sniping well enough for me to enjoy it, and then all this other kind of shooting and action at the same time.
Yeah, there's other things that keep it fresh. It's not just pure sniper. I mean, there are kind of you can lay traps, and you've got kind of sidearms, and you can set distractions and things. It's almost like a Hitman meets Ghost Recon in that respect. But I kind of put it down for a little bit. I will go back to it, but it's something you can just pick up, play for a bit, put down, and like you say, never kind of worry about it too much again. The other thing is there's multiplayer as well.
Oh, really?
So if you get it, we'll absolutely do some multiplayer. There's competitive and there's cooperative as well.
Is competitive just like is it like first one to kill the target, or is it literally sniper battles?
I don't know. I hope it's a bit of both. I hope there's like first person to kill this target, and then there's like, okay, the target's dead. Fucking either get to the exit or kill this guy before he gets there. I hope that'll be something really good. But the main missions you could do cooperatively, so we'd have to absolutely get on the headset and.
I'm sure that would go really well.
Plan it between us. So let me know when you download it.
I'll definitely get on that.
It's a really good game. I'd definitely recommend it to anyone on PlayStation Plus. I have a feeling that it's got quite a hardcore following because I can't see how it's going to sound really hard. See how a game like this has managed to get 4 versions of it out. So there must be like a dedicated base that's loving it. I'm all for it, absolutely. If it's keeping people employed and keeping people entertained.
No, I think you're right. It's definitely something that obviously has this kind of niche following, just because, of all the things that do reasonably well and then never get past the first entry, this must have an audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'll give it a download. I'm really bad at I often purchase the PlayStation Plus games, so I'm really bad at actually downloading and playing them. But I will give this one a go. Yes, we'll have to set something up and do something.
Yeah, 100%. So it's pretty fun. And then the last game that I got this week was DuckTales, the remastered version. I got it on Steam. It was really cheap.
Does it have a theme tune? Does it do that?
It does. It does. It has the retro theme tunes. Yeah. It's the Megadrive equivalent though, so it's not the one that you could YouTube and get from the TV series. But it's enough to kind of. I know all the lyrics anyway, so it's absolutely no problem. So we'll be playing that, and it's really such a gorgeous looking game. And I remember playing the original DuckTales. And
is it the remaster? This one?
It's the remastered, so everything has been done from the ground up. You've got kind of 3D backgrounds that are moving. All the sprites are fully HD. They're almost kind of 4K. They absolutely look flawless. There's been a lot of time and effort gone into them.
I remember DuckTales. Vaguely remember DuckTales from childhood, but when this remaster came out, I remember it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was on a lot of the shows and a lot of kind of gaming sites. I think it kind of came alongside, maybe not the same time, but around the same time that they redid the TV series. So the TV series has got kind of a reboot as well. So I imagine that kind of was. Yeah, David Tennant is Scrooge McDuck.
What?
Did you know that?
No, what the fuck?
So I'll let you go in and figure that out. But yeah, there's been the TV series, and I think that helped spark interest in the TV series as well, because DuckTales has always been a memorable hit, not just for the theme tune. I remember kind of watching it as a kid as well, and kind of Scrooge jumping into the safe full of money and swimming through it and things, and his nephews, Louie, Dewey, and God, what's the other one? Huey, that's it. Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
I think I've got the theme. Is this one from the game?
Yeah, that's the one.
Awesome.
The gameplay, it's really difficult. It's kind of a throwback to the old Megadrive games, which is, you were paying for a game that was really hard to complete because there weren't that many games, and that was the appeal of a game. It was hard. It wasn't kind of anything really fantastic to look at and things, and it's very simple controls. So it's a very hard game. I've done a few levels. Thankfully, there's like a save checkpoint feature. I don't need to kind of redo everything again. And
I never think that that old, like you say, the old games were generally were made not to be beaten. They were made to stretch out a fairly short experience as much as they possibly could.
Yeah.
Most Mega Drive games and 16-bit games, I would argue, could be beaten within 3 hours or less.
Yeah, 100%.
I think you would, if you say you own 30 Mega Drive games, you probably complete 3 of them.
Yeah. It was always the thing, because you kind of lose interest. You think, I'll just try another game, or I'll come back to it. So yeah, it's good, it's great, and it was dead cheap. And the reason it's too cheap, I suppose we can go a little bit onto the news now. is that sadly the licensing for the DuckTales game has run out. So this is the publisher's way of saying, well, we're not going to get this license, far too expensive for whatever reason. Here's a game, it's dirt cheap, and once it's yours, that's it. You can download it whenever you want, but then after that, that's it. You're not going to get it again. And it's almost sad that it's kind of to come to this. I mean, I understand kind of the things with licenses and copyright and everything, but to have a game that, I mean, was probably it's almost the development time, I would say, has probably has been just as much as how long it's been out on retail shelves. And it's quite sad that people have put a lot of time and effort into things, and it's going to be kind of a generation of people or a group of people that are just never going to get to play again for licensing reasons. And back in the Megadrive days, there never really was that. You had a license, and that was it. That game was kind of the game forever. You didn't have to kind of take it off the shelf or anything. It's almost unheard of. But this is kind of the era of games that we live in, and licenses and the payments, and people always want to kind of have their own little 2 pence from it.
Well, yeah, it was always a thing where, in the era, because DuckTales Remastered was primarily a digital game, I'm going to say. There might have been physical copies, but this is the type of game that was released in digital format primarily. When that's the case, publishers and those hosting the files have ultimate control over it. When you are creating physical copies, once they're out in the wild, they're out in the wild. Like publishers cannot ring you up and say, "Excuse me, mate, can you post us that copy back?" It's not. In those days, you were purchasing the cartridge with the software on it. Nowadays, you are purchasing a license to be able to play and download that game from somewhere for the time it is available.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've talked about this before, where there's definitely a fairly big issue where of archiving and maintaining games for historical purposes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think from a historic point of view, and from an enthusiast point of view, and from a posterity point of view, it is a serious issue. I still don't think the average person gives a fuck, though. Like, I don't think they care about this type of thing, about backwards compatibility in huge ways. I think people see that as a nice to have, but not an essential.
Yeah.
I think this kind of maintaining legacy is not that important to people. I think what happens is 10 years down the line, when DuckTales Remastered comes out, people go, "Oh, cool! A chance to pay £10 to play this again." You're kind of renting these games long term, and when that rental comes to an end,
I suppose it's the old fuddy-duddy in me. I think when I've paid for something, I would like to think that it's mine forever. And like you say, you get that with physical discs, and it's just not the case with digital games. I mean, think of PlayStation 3 now. If you have a PlayStation 3, all those games are gone. You'd have to have a license. Whenever the PlayStation 3 server shut down, you were able to kind of get those games again. Whereas, if I had a miracle 10 years, 15 years down the line, I could think, oh, I remember that game on the PlayStation 3. Oh, yeah, I could get the game from eBay, or I could borrow a PlayStation 3 from a friend who still has it. And you could kind of relive those memories. I don't think there's anything wrong with having that particular outlook or that view on games, and just having that ability to do so. And
no, I completely agree. I think
I see what you're saying as well. The average person doesn't really care, and I think, yeah, you're right, because it hasn't really affected them. But once, I don't know, maybe the next generation, when there's more of a focus on digital games, maybe that would bring it more to the spotlight. I just think it's kind of in the early stages of it yet.
I think we are getting closer. Microsoft have made great strides here in the Xbox One generation, mainly because I think they needed something to strengthen their offer to people and strengthen their case to buy an Xbox One. So they've done a lot of backwards compatibility stuff, which is great. Sony seem to be following suit with the PlayStation 5, if the rumors are to be believed, which I think at this point there may be substantiated rumors, which is great news. Nintendo had been pretty decent in the past with Virtual Console, although that, again, the cynic in me says, well, it's just another chance for them to sell you games, but at least they were being maintained and ported. They've been really bad on that front with the Switch, so that's kind of fallen flat, but who knows what they'll do. But I just think in general, the games industry is really bad at recording things. But then again, the TV industry is not that much better. The movie industry is probably a little bit better, but not that much better. Like, how many shows? Like, how many?
Oh yeah, Ultraviolet I think is going under, and they've said recently if you've got anything on account Ultraviolet wise, you download it now because we're just gonna fucking go, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And the whole idea was when you bought a DVD, you could get a digital copy, and there was this great way to stop piracy. You know, buy a
It
digital
was good.
copy, and you can have this free copy of yours. And well,
to be fair, I thought Ultraviolet was a good idea. I think Ultraviolet was a bit like a shit thing to work with and use. I never liked it. It was always convoluted and awkward. But yeah,
but that's the
that's
thing.
going.
It's a service problem, isn't it? Then and then
Yeah,
it kind of
completely.
forces people back to piracy, which is ridiculous. And it's almost the same with streaming. I mean, it's going off a tangent now a little bit, but it's almost the same with streaming services. We've got Disney coming out with theirs soon. They've released, I think their Netflix killer, they've kind of coined it. It's going to be Disney plus Hulu and ESPN plus for about £12 or $12 it was in a package. That's a pretty good deal. But then if you're already paying for Netflix, you already pay for Amazon, you think, am I really going to pay another $12, bring up to $20 plus for all these things? No, I think I'm just going to start downloading movies and TV series again. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's bad, but I mean, like I mentioned the TV industry there. I mean, how many shows have we got? Like, say Doctor Who, for example. I'm sure a few years ago, there was things like, oh, we found some lost episodes. We thought all of them had burned in a fire and stuff like that. Like, there's plenty of like early BBC stuff that from like the 50s or whatever, early days stuff that was just not maintained and not lost because it took them a few decades to get that archiving system and that archiving and preservation side of their business up and running. So I still think we're in the early days of video games for the most part.
Yeah.
Technology is leapfrogging, but the industry itself is fairly, I would say it's in its adolescence. It's still got a lot to learn and all the rest of it. We will get better at it, I think, in the whole. But I don't think the man on the street it's a big issue for that. But I think it should be a bigger issue for the industry at large.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll see next generation how much of an issue it will be. So yeah, I mean, I win on one hand because it's a game and it's a really cheap game for me. But then on the other hand, you think people who may not know this and who kind of pick up the news once it's too late, lost out.
Yeah, and it is meant to be a really nice little game. People made a big deal of it. Not a game that I have a particular affinity for, but a lot of people made a big deal when it came out and was remastered. So
yeah, absolutely, great game.
So sorry, did you get onto this by saying you actually bought it and have been playing it?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, I've played the game and I've kind of mentioned the gameplay and the detail of the characters and how much effort they've put into it. It's kind of really. I mean, it looks to me. I couldn't tell the difference, to be honest with you, but it looks to me everything has been hand drawn and then it's been hand drawn to a very high level and high quality, almost like it's ripped straight from the cartoon TV show.
It's funny actually because I was just looking. The original game's very pixel arty because it was a NES game,
Megadrive Genesis, yeah.
But the new one is like a lift of the cartoon series onto the game. It looks nice. It looks really good.
Looks really good, and it is fun. And like you say, the theme tune's in there, so it's winner chicken dinner for.
Great. So, one thing that we're not very good at is maintaining video games, archiving them, looking after the industry's history. But one thing that video game companies are very good at is making money through loot boxes.
Absolutely.
And there's
something we can be proud of.
Navigating the cracks between gambling laws. That's what we got to be proud of.
Yeah, just pushing the long arm of the law, see how much you can go till it breaks.
Got to get those shareholders happy. But no, there might be some good news in this regard. So the ESA, which is the kind of governing body of the video games industry in America, have come up with some policy that basically say that platform holders must run policies that dictate that companies have to disclose the odds on their loot boxes. And Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo have all kind of said that they will adhere to this and will begin looking into implementing it. Ultimately, it's going to take a while to get in, as all government legislation and legislative-based things do, just because of the complexity of a lot of them and the the government legislation often doesn't necessarily meet with the harsh realities of the world. So I can appreciate it's gonna take time to implement these things. But generally speaking, there's a commitment from all these organizations to start doing this by 2020. It's a little bit soft in that anything that this only applies to something that is a new game or any game that updates to add loot boxes in.
So I imagine they'll pick a date in the future. Let's say 1st of January 2021. Any game after this has to have loot boxes with shown odds.
Yeah, like a bit like Apex does, I suppose. So it's at least giving people a little bit more information to assess whether it's worth their money, which is fine. I've said before, I'm not advocating that loot boxes are necessarily banned, because as an adult of relative sane mind and body without kids in my household, I feel like I should be able to make informed decisions around what I want to spend my disposable income on shiny, stupid digital shit, if I want to or not. So it's just informing the customer and all that, which is good. What it does mean is, though, the games that exist, so your Apexes, your Fortnites, your does Fortnite have loot boxes, or is just its battle pass?
It's battle passes and it's cosmetics.
Okay.
So, as far as I know, there isn't a loot box system, but all the cosmetics you can buy whichever you want, which is fine. But then it's kind of an additional cost, whereas the battle pass is put to the front, say, actually, why pay for 15 individual ones when you can buy this one pack and get you all of them kind of alongside with it.
Yeah. Okay. But like your Overwatches, your FIFA Ultimate Teams, those existing products do not have to adhere to this. It's any game, as you say, after an arbitrary date that will be settled on at some point in the future, I imagine. But what's interesting, though, is any game that adds them in as a feature will have to adhere to this policy as well, which is quite interesting, because what I think Activision has been particularly bad at this is launching games with no loot boxes, no heavy monetization, letting them rest, let them get their reviews out, let them get good scores, let them slip by any criticism for this type of shady shit. And then a few months down the line, when the initial wave of player base starts to drip off a little bit, then you start implementing these loot boxes, these monetization strategies for your dedicated, hardcore, long-term fan base, and start getting extra money from them, start whaling in that
worm to dangle in front of them, yeah.
Activision have been particularly bad. I've not played Black Ops 4 for a long time now, but apparently that is effectively an experiment in how badly you can treat that type of thing. Apparently the monetization has got incredibly aggressive in that game.
Yeah, so, I remember seeing a few articles when they'd released kind of patches and updates, and people just really abhorred what had happened to the game. So it doesn't strike me as unusual. And it's kind of cautious, because the new game, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, they've said no loot boxes,
which is great. At launch.
I figure, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, exactly.
So it's a step in the right direction. It's given consumers information to make informed choices, which I possibly advocate as maybe the best way forward. But that there's a lot of personal feeling around this subject, and it's a deep and complex situation. But I just thought that was good.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
I was going to say, I don't think there's an answer just yet, and I think maybe this move by the ESA and the major games consoles is something in the right direction. I would like there to be a harmony in between unregulation and completely ban the thing.
Completely.
I think this is probably a step in the right direction. Whether it's the full complete answer, I don't know. Any time to tell. We have this conversation much later on, and then we can decide.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think this is a solution. It is a step in the right direction. And appended to like the statements by the ESA around this, you had reps from Sony coming out and saying, look, between taking this stance and giving customers more information to make more informed choices, we have things like wallet controls in PSN as a built-in feature. There's security things you can put on to stop your kids spending your money without, there's plenty of tools there to start making this better.
Yeah, you can. I mean, there's a balance, isn't there, between the companies doing things to protect their consumers and protect their wallet and protect their choices, making informed choices, and then just kind of leaving it really open and really barren and being really unsupportive when kind of things do go wrong. I think you're right when you kind of said we're both adults. We should kind of be able to make that decision ourselves and not have that kind of decision away from us. So yeah, there is a balance to be struck.
Oh, completely. One thing I never really like is this won't somebody think of the children mentality. So I don't like to jump to solutions that have that at the heart of it, such as ban all loot boxes. Children can access them too easily and spend their father's money when ultimately it's a question of educating the kids, educating the parents, and getting them to use the tools to hand. That's a lot harder fight to win, mind.
It is. I mean, Belgium, I think, is it the Denmark or the Netherlands? It's another European country. They completely banned loot boxes.
It was Belgium, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, Belgium, and there was another one. I can't remember.
Oh, was it?
But yeah, so you kind of see news reports in games where, oh, this game's coming out, but by the way, you can't get anything cosmetic stuff in these countries because they've banned loot boxes. And I kind of think those poor gamers, initially I thought it was a good thing. They've kind of done away with loot boxes, but because they've just been sectioned off or they've been ring fenced, you can just kind of tiptoe around it now. And really, it's just a bunch of people who are losing out. There's kind of not much to be gained from it.
It's not really fixed the solution. It's just like blocked it out, as you say.
I think it would probably fix the solution if there were more countries adopting it and it became the norm. But because it hasn't and it isn't, that's what's happening.
I'd say if one of the big markets like America or a large chunk of Europe suddenly adopted this kind of blanket ban, it would suddenly force companies to readdress their strategies. But if it's like, as you say, Belgium and a Scandinavian country, a Northern European country that's done this, that's probably a fairly small player base.
Yeah.
It's not gonna get Blizzard to stop selling loot boxes in Overwatch when Alabama buys more than them put together.
Yeah.
It needs to, the maths needs to swing in the right way to get things to change.
Yeah.
I mean, saying this, a new story that I plucked out in kind of off the back of that is Rocket League have actually come out. Psyonix have come out and said that Rocket League is actually leaving loot boxes and moving away from them altogether. Now, I haven't played Rocket League since it came out, and I was never hugely into it. I like Rocket League. I really appreciate what it is, but I was never particularly good at it, never really got hardcore into it. But apparently in Rocket League, what happens is you play the game and you unlock loot boxes, but you have to purchase keys to unlock those loot boxes, which seems like the worst, like the scummiest, most drawn out way you could do
I think
loot
you
boxes.
can. Again, it's been a while since I played it. From what I can remember when I was playing, I'm sure you could kind of level up and get a free loot box, and then there was stuff that you could maybe buy from the shop or purchase keys for. So it wasn't 100% kind of you had to put money down. But yeah, it did have that appeal, and there was stuff that you could just buy like as DLC. So there were some cosmetics you could just kind of buy offhand and they'd be yours. But yeah, a lot of the stuff was kind of locked behind this game, a random number generator game, which isn't great. And I think it's a step in the right direction for them to just say, look, if there's something you want, put some money down. There's no kind of hidden agenda behind it. It's all yours. We've taken out the RNG behind it. I think that's good. I think it's good of them to do that. And they've probably made way loads of money to not worry about loot boxes being a thing anymore.
Well, I was going to say, so basically they're moving towards a more a la carte thing. You basically pick what you want and buy it, which, funny enough, that's what shops have always done for us. But they're moving towards a system like that. And I wonder if this is something that's been possible off the back of them becoming an Epic Game Store exclusive. It's not a well-kept secret that Epic are basically hurling money at people to get them on their platform as an exclusive. But and there's a whole other story, but there's a lot of outrage about the Epic Game Store and that exclusivity kind of they're pushing in a big way.
Definitely.
But if you moving away from personal feelings aside from all that, I must admit it's not something I feel strongly about one way or the other. But what is interesting is it seems to be opening up a gateway to developers to have a little bit of stability. To not have to go down revenue streams like loot boxes to stay afloat. It seems to be giving smaller scale developers a platform on which to grow more steadily and more reliably on. And I wonder if Psionics now just simply do not need loot box money.
Yeah, I think there's a huge, especially if they've gone Epic Store exclusive, they've got all that good EA money. Epic money, I should say, rather. I think they've probably, and they've had such a good run with the game. It's been out for many, many years, and there's always kind of tournaments, and it's still a very much well played game and well loved game. Absolutely, they've kind of made their money and then some, and then some, and then some, and they've just thought, if anything makes us look good, let's just keep doing it. Let's just keep keeping our fans happy. Here's a really good way to make them happy. We're not going to do loot boxes anymore.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if this is the start of people moving away from loot boxes because perhaps the good press is worth more than the revenue. I suspect that, as I say, it's more to do with the stability Epic are providing Psionics, but it'll be interesting. Obviously, the space around loot boxes is a hot topic at the moment. It's changing ever slowly, for the better, for the worse, but this keeps coming up week after week in various forms, various guises. So it'll be interesting to see the discussion around that evolve and take forward.
Absolutely.
And go forward even. So yeah, it's interesting, I must admit.
Watch
It's
this
just
space.
it's fun to look at because it's like one part business, one part psychology, one part kind of company culture. There's a lot of different factors as to how a company wields the mechanism of loot boxes, how aggressively they do it, how morally they do it, whether they do it at all. There's a lot of factors into it, so it is an interesting topic. And I wonder how long it'll take us to get sick of it, really, because it does come week after week. But I think it's an interesting topic, really, and it's definitely a pervasive one in the industry at the moment. So loot boxes are maybe looking a little bit up. We've talked a little bit about E3 and possibility of going, but you might not want to go after this next story, mate, because the big one that came out a few days ago was that E3 have the organizers of E3 have effectively, it's the ESA again, the guys who come up with the loot box odds policy. They maintain a database for every E3 for press members so that they can effectively sell on that information or use it to sell to other marketing agencies or other events and organize events, basically inviting the industry figure into it. And their database has effectively leaked up to 2,000 video game journalist details into the open.
Gosh.
And this includes email addresses, personal addresses, office addresses, all sorts, basically. It's a mixture of people who work for like full-on organizations who have offices, so their work numbers are known, their work emails are now known, their office addresses are known. But it also stems to people who, in the modern age, some of the biggest games coverage outlets are individuals on YouTube.
Yeah, they are.
And a lot of these don't have offices. A lot of these are literally a guy with a laptop or a guy with a PC doing
it's
his
his home address where his family live. It's a
yeah,
faceless building in the middle of a city somewhere.
And I mean, we've been around long enough to know that the internet's a bit of a shitty place, and having your personal details slapped on a list for you to be like basically open season on harassing you. Not good.
It's not. It's data protection and GDPR now. It's how secure is your data, even if you kind of give it confidentially and nothing is completely unhackable. There'll always be ways through. And how will kind of this data, if it gets leaked, affect you? It's quite shocking. First, they get rid of the booth papers, and now this is just horrible.
Yeah, it's a complete fuck up, and something like that. I think is a GDPR something like a $20 million fine.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
And I'm just wondering if the ESA can even bankroll that kind of money without feeling the pinch.
It depends on the circumstances of the leak. If it's just shitty security, then yeah, they're going to get hit hard. If it was something maybe malicious inside, depends on the circumstances behind that and stuff. But in any way, if anyone's had their details leaked, it must be quite eerie because it's almost like knowing that you've had your identity stolen and someone's got your card or something. It's just a really uneasy feeling to have. How much more information do they know? Are they putting stuff together? Are they doing something right now? How can I protect myself? And yeah, it's quite something.
Yeah, it's a huge data breach. I mean, it's not financial information, which is good, but it's personal information, and people are receiving threats. People are receiving harassment.
Oh, have they? Have there been
I
documented
mean,
cases of that?
as far as I'm aware, it's a lot of stuff. Just it's like unpleasant calls to mobiles, emails. I'm not aware of any stories where people have been turning up to physical locations and harassing people, but who the fuck knows, man? It's not good. It does. I mean, it's very easy to be blasé about data and security around data and things like that. But it's things like this kind of highlight how important it is. I mean, part of me, if I'm being really pessimistic about this whole situation, it's never like me to be pessimistic. How long is it till we hear a story where somebody is like severely injured or attacked or even killed as a result of this? Like, it wouldn't be the first time something really bad's happened to somebody on the internet, like, and
Because
this
of the
just
internet,
gives all the crazies like direct access to these people.
yeah, absolutely. It's I think it is just a matter of time. As sad it is to say, and I don't know if that's going to be the tipping point where people start to take the things much more seriously, and it's just like, right, well, yeah, can't be doing that shit anymore. That's just ridiculous because the effect that it's had. But it's inevitable that would eventually happen because, like you say, there's just mean people out there. There's just no way of changing the world. That's just how they are, and the best you could do is to kind of keep yourself safe, keep your family safe, and part of the safety is to ensure that the dealings you have and the things that you do are kept private and kept secure. And if that's not the case, then it puts you at risk. Absolutely.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, it's not good news, but watch this space. I mean, yeah, some of the people in that list are EU citizens, so they are definitely beholden to GDPR. So it'll be interesting to see what the European Commission does to come down on this. It's an American organization, so it's a bit of an odd situation. I'm not any legal expert about what jurisdiction you can, who's got what jurisdiction over who, but you'd think they'd be able to do something.
Yeah, 100%. I
You'd
think
think.
there will be some reaching consequences, but it'd be interesting to see what that is. Like you say, it's two different countries, two very different kind of set of politics and legislations.
Yeah, so not a good news story, and I've got two news stories to go through. One of them is kind of fun and nice. One of them is definitely fucking not.
So you're asking me, do I want the good news or the bad news?
I'm kind of leaning towards doing the fun news at the end, just as a palate cleanser.
Yeah. Go on then.
Okay, then. So the big news story of the last week or so. Well, this is a news story that kind of extends beyond the games industry into serious fucking mainstream news. There's been multiple mass shootings in America over the weekend. One left 30 people dead, which sounds. Oh, sorry, that's not true. Put together 30 people are dead. And 50 are injured, which is just a staggering number. Like
Horrible.
it's
Absolutely
absolutely fucking crazy. Yeah, it's generally a genuinely terrible situation, and again seems to be largely limited to America as this kind of prolific event that continuously happens. I mean, I remember when school shootings happened once in a blue moon. Well, at least they were reported on very rarely, and now it seems to be several times a year
Yeah, the
that this
frequency of it seems
happens.
to be going up.
Now, is
And there
that a
seems to
case
be
of it's happening more, or is it a case of the media's? It's the media's darling, because fucking American mainstream media they fucking masturbate over this shit. They love a good school shooting, a mass shooting. They fucking love it. Was it CNN or Fox? I can't really remember, but I saw a clip of a news show which was literally ranking school shootings or mass shootings. I keep saying school shootings because they normally do take place in schools and colleges, but I'll often do. But mass shootings, we're literally ranking mass shootings in terms of body count. They fucking rank over this stuff, and they're bemoaning the fucking tragedy of it all on the one hand, and then showing a literal scoreboard on the other hand.
It is just pornography, isn't it? Almost just violent pornography. That's just to kind of have the shock value and just to relive those things, and it's very little care for the the victims and their families, and it's really abhorrent. And I'm glad to say that in this country, as far as I know, we do everything like that. The only massacre or the shooting that I can remember that sticks out in my mind was the Dunblane one in Scotland many years ago. And that effectively changed gun control for the better completely. There was kind of a gun amnesty and many weapons were handed in, and everyone kind of looked, and the view was like, look, this is pretty fucking shitty, man. There's no need to carry on the way we are. We need to change. And then when we had the shootings in Christchurch, New Zealand, they were very quick to jump on some legislation, and people can argue it's very knee-jerky, but it's very much one nation just kind of saying we're not going to stand for this anymore. This is a loophole that needs to be closed. We're not going to have this done again. And then you've got America, who are just basically saying thoughts and prayers, Second Amendment, and that's pretty much it.
And the Second Amendment, I mean, fuck it, whatever, I know I'm a stupid Brit, but the Second Amendment makes sense from the time it's from, where there was still a wilderness and a frontier, and there was
fucking
a need.
muskets, man. You took about 3 days to reload. It's not like an assault rifle used to kind of go in and, like you say, mow down a school or shoot up a cinema or go to a fucking food festival, man. It's fucking psychopath.
There's absolutely no reason to, in my humble opinion, there's no reason to own a weapon in Western society. It's just
something of that level. I 100% agree with you. The thing with the gun is it's just the ultimate kind of equalizer.
Exactly. It's a great leveler.
Exactly. And if you don't have one, then it's game over. And the problem with that is, let's take, for example, I mean, we've got no knife crime in this country. That absolutely we do. And that's something that we're tackling. If you imagine all those knives were replaced with guns, how much more death, how much more of a kind of dangerous situation this would be.
Oh, completely. It's fucking terrible. But it's shit situation. The root of it is it feels obvious. I think really it comes down to gun control is dog shit in America. This is an almost uniquely American issue. Get War Donald. He's waded in on the situation.
The very classy, intelligent, stable genius. I'm sure he's got something very wise to say on this.
So he's basically come out and he's kind of condemned everything. Donald Trump is not somebody I think is a particularly great president. He's not somebody who I think is a particularly good leader. He's not somebody he's not a great
person.
No, but he, to his credit, I don't think he's a great orator either. I think he doesn't speak very well about things like this. So when you put him on the spot and get him to talk about sensitive subjects like this, he doesn't always convey himself very well. But at the same time, there's been odd times where he has at least got the sentiment right about things. And this isn't one of those times. He basically came out and said, we must stop the glorification of violence in our society. Yeah, great. I do agree with that. This includes gruesome and grisly video games that are now commonplace. It is too easy today for troubled youth to surround themselves with a culture that celebrates violence. We must stop or substantially reduce this. It has to begin immediately. It's skirting around the issue because
it's putting the blame on something else.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, do you remember Jack Thompson?
Oh God, yeah. Where's he now?
I am.
I'm sure by this time next week.
I'm sure by this time next week he's come back and he's fighting the good fight once again on Violent Video Games.
Didn't he get disbarred?
He did. But I don't think that's going to stop him. I mean,
not in Trump's America.
Like Donald Trump in charge, I'd be surprised if he pardons him, gives him his own job back, and there you go, fight the good fight. You were right all along. We were wrong. We're sorry. You keep doing what you're doing.
Senior advisor to Violent Video Games.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
I mean, to be fair, the ESA quickly came out with a statement too, basically saying "fuck that." They basically said, as we shared with the White House video games, excuse me, I'll start again. Fucking hell, I'll talk about Donald Trump not being able to speak properly. As we shared at the White House video game meeting in March 2018, numerous scientific studies have established that there are no causal links between video games and violence. More than 165 million Americans enjoy video games and billions of people play video games worldwide, yet other societies where video games are played as avidly do not contend with the tragic levels of violence that occur in the US. And they've got a point. South Korea, the most video game-ass fucking country in the world, do not have this problem.
Yep, Japan, as far as I know, don't go around shooting schools or shooting dojos or whatever they do.
No, people in Japan are more likely to kill themselves than they are each other.
Yeah, I mean that's another problem. But again,
they have a
they're
separate
not,
degree.
they're not really shooting themselves, are they? They're not kind of It's ridiculous to kind of equate the two together, and it's a very strong statement from not just the ESA but from the gaming community just to ridicule this ludicrous statement that's kind of absolutely has no foundation in any kind of rational mind.
It's it's frustrating because we seem to have been having this conversation for now 30 years now, or now 20 years even.
I remember when we were having the original GTAs, and I'm sure GTA 5 now will kind of be used as a shining example of the horrible things that games can do, and we need to protect the children. And
I mean, it was Mortal Kombat in the 90s. It's Grand Theft. It was Grand Theft Auto 10 years ago. It's fucking Fortnite now.
yeah, I mean, these things. Don't get me wrong; these things do have very strong themes that are not suitable for children. I would not argue that, but that's not the problem. It's not the games. Not the problem. It's the access to the games and the people who, i.e., the parents who are kind of giving children access to these games and just not being able to deal with these mature themes in a rational way. And even if they do, it just doesn't happen. Think of how many games GTA has sold, millions upon even billions, and that number of kind of shootings just doesn't equate, or number of carjackings that people do just doesn't equate to kind of the sales made. Man, if that was the case, would there be a lot more kind of violence upon the streets?
I mean, I'd even go one step further, and I don't think it's games at all. I mean, to me, it's individuals who have problems that stem from other issues, mental health issues, political views.
100%. It's definitely a mental health issue, like you say, 100%. And I don't think games contribute. I did want to kind of make that point. I think everything has an influence on a person, whether it's games, whether it's movies, whether it's TV. It's just who that person is and what they're doing.
I mean, fuck's sake, the guy who assassinated John Lennon was obsessed with "Is it Catcher in the Rye?" You know, if it's not games, it's movies. If it's not movies, it's books. It's art that influences people. But these people are not well, and should, you know, anybody who takes their lessons from fucking Call of Duty or you know, any kind of media, it probably, you know, it takes their values wholesale from those type anything really. It shouldn't. Isn't a person who's well-rounded or sound of mind, you know, you need to formulate opinions based on multiple influences and critical thinking.
Yeah, you can't just live in an echo chamber. It just kind of highlights your flaws and highlights the kind of problems that you have. And like you say, it is absolutely a mental health issue. And I think even in this country, mental health isn't taken maybe quite as seriously or quite as well as it should be. We probably are making better steps and better strides, especially with kind of depression and suicide and eating disorders, being much more open to talk about it and things like that. But there's still a long way to go. I think if somebody breaks an arm, they have a few weeks off. But if someone's mentally ill, I don't think it really happens. It's probably looked at the same way, and it's probably just as, if not as, destructive.
Oh yeah, mental health is generally very poor. It's something that's not very well understood, and it's hard to get people to take it seriously. I am quite open and say that I sometimes quite often probably don't take it as seriously as I should. And I think part of that is because it's very hard to detect. As you say, if someone breaks an arm, you got a broken arm, it's obvious. If somebody is depressed, it's not always obvious. And then I think there are a lot of people who lean into that and say, "Oh, I'm so depressed," when they're not really. They're just feeling a bit down. It's a lot harder thing to get people to take seriously and get people to recognize and get treatment for it. And it's not in a good state, and it's a very hard thing to get people to recognize. This is a whole this is a huge topic. I mean, in addition to the the Game Developers Association and its foundation issued a statement which basically it echoes kind of, I think it pretty much echoes how I feel about the whole thing. It says basically, "Our deepest condolences and hearts go out to the victims of the families affected by the tragic events in Daytona, Ohio and El Paso, Texas. Society has endured too many senseless acts of violence and horrific mass shootings. Blaming video games detracts from the broader issues at hand. There is an overwhelming amount of research that finds no evidence linking video games to violence. Video games do not cause violence, and we support efforts to discontinue the misguided information.
Yeah, 100%.
That sums up pretty much my stance on the whole thing. I think there's now enough science to dispute this link.
Games have been around for that long, and like you said, there's enough evidence and science to prove that just isn't the case, and it's just scapegoating, really bad scapegoating.
Completely. I mean, some of these stats I've got in front of me are pretty shocking. So there's been 8,796 people killed from gun wounds in 2019 in America. That's fucking nuts.
Terrible, horrible.
There's over this way. So at the moment, so again, this is a very American problem. I'm not saying there's not mass shootings in other locations. There was one that one in, oh god, I can't remember the country specific. Was it Norway or Sweden? One of the Scandinavian kind of Northern European countries where there was a mass shooting at that Christian encampment on the island.
Yeah, it was Norway. Anders Breivik, yeah.
Anders Breivik, yes. But again, Norway is a country that I could be off base here, but I feel like it has a fairly large gun population for a European country. But anyway, so it's mass shootings aren't limited to America, but America has far more of them than anywhere else, as far as I'm aware. There's 1.2 guns per person in America.
Yeah, there's more guns than people.
That's fucking insane. So for every 5 people, there's a spare gun.
The American population is the most well-armed, I guess, army in the world. It's even more equipped than their own army. It's ridiculous.
It's nuts. So yeah, it's frustrating for somebody who loves games, really likes games. Feel like games have helped me in a lot of ways. I feel like a lot of a lot of skills I have, as limited as they might be, a lot of skills in terms of like communication, planning, organization have come from video games. Like I was thinking about this the other day, where raiding in Warcraft is like probably really helped me understand how to play in a team, understand people's roles, working together, communicating, working with others who maybe don't necessarily, like working in potentially volatile situations and trying to work with people who are maybe a little bit sensitive, or there's a lot of skills in that. So stuff as simple as fucking map reading I learned from video games. Yeah, and it doesn't come out a lot, but when it does, it's really fucking useful.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of stuff I've learned. I used to play the Dynasty Warriors series really, really hardcore, and I know quite a lot of kind of Three Kingdoms era in China. I could kind of name a lot of kind of battles and generals and stuff. And
you're right, though. Like mythology, legends, cultures around the world, a bit of history here and there. Learning about different types of people and characters through RPGs.
It's a great experience sharer, absolutely, and it does it much better than kind of films, TV, and music ever can, because you would control as well.
It's interactive, isn't it? It's like you say, it's not passive. Games have enriched my life, I would say, on the whole, and they're a fucking fun time sink to boot. Games are as much a waste of time as any other hobby that doesn't really get you anywhere, and that's fine. But I think they've generally done me a lot of good in my life. On balance, I think they're definitely a positive force in my life. So it's really frustrating to have people who are out of touch on the best days to turn around and blame video games. But it's particularly frustrating that there's an overwhelming body of evidence that is continually growing to dispute their claims. But it's a soft target because you start blaming guns. The NRA in America gets up in arms and withdraws their money from your funding, and they fund a lot of politicians.
Yeah, I would be surprised if there was some NRA-funded research that comes out showing that there's a link between violence and video games, or to kind of put a spin on something like that. It's
anytime that's happened, though, it's always been disputable evidence, shaky science underpinning it. It never really stands up greatly. I think the most damning ones are it's hard to tell. That seems to be the most damning reports. There's no real any way to tell whether video games make you more violent. They are literally the most damning ones that I've seen that were credible. The rest are there is no link. So yeah, it is very frustrating, especially when, and I find it especially rich when the likes of Donald Trump come out, who play on very kind of right-wing, getting the everyman riled up about things to play into their hand and get them to support them. You know, I mentioned before, easy answers to complex problems. I find it rich that somebody like Donald Trump and somebody who preaches messages like Donald Trump can turn around and blame kind of society and video games and things like that and all the rest of it. He's done a lot to shape the society that he governs in the last couple of years, and I don't feel like he's done much to make it for the better.
I think personally, I think he's more responsible than the video games after the shooting.
Well, exactly. Yeah, and I think it's misplaced. His rhetoric is very
focus,
misplaced.
yeah, his focus. Yeah, as long as there's kind of people in the game community who are willing to stand up and shout that this is ridiculous, I think we'll be safe. It does feel frustrating because, like I say, it's like a hallmark to 10, 15 years ago when it was at the focus again, and I think Hillary Clinton was going on about it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be something that gets dragged out for till we're old, and maybe even the generation below us is old. Maybe when we're dying off, because at that point, video games will be prolific enough with everybody that the older generation understand them.
Yeah,
it's like with a lot of stuff. It's time. It's when rock and roll got blamed in, was it the 70s, 60s, and 70s?
Yeah.
Now fucking presidents love Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and shit. You know, it's just time and generational things and generational gaps. That's all it is. You just hope it doesn't interfere with things in the interim, really, for the worse at least. But yeah, it's you know, I think the big takeaway from the story is mass shootings are happening a lot. It's shit, and somebody really needs to take a stand. I remember gun control was a very close subject to Barack Obama's heart. I've seen Barack Obama doing speech about gun control where he literally just kind of started breaking down in tears. And it's a shame you don't have somebody who's willing to take a stand. I mean, again, it's frustrating that Barack Obama never really did anything about it, but I always got the feeling that he never did a lot because he couldn't.
Yeah, exactly. He, towards the end of his presidency, I don't say lost the House, but he kind of lost the support he needed to make these big changes, and it's lobbyists as well, like the NRA and things, and
completely. You know, Barack Obama, I feel, was a great leader who accomplished very little because he did not have the run of the government. And don't get me wrong, segregation of that, like having the president being able to do what he wants, is not a good idea. You need the checks in the Senate and the Congress and all the rest of it. But it feels like he could have got a lot more done if he hadn't lost all that. You know, he feels like a great president who never got to be great.
Yeah.
But you know, that's again another conversation. Yeah, the gun situation's nuts. It's getting worse, or at least more prolific, and it doesn't feel like it's going to get better anytime soon, because I don't feel like the underlying reasons are being looked at and addressed. So, watch this space, really. But
so what's the good news then?
So the good news, it's more of a fun one. It's nice for the guy who it happened to. So basically, a guy called Scott Amos from Reno in Nevada. He was rooting through the attic of his childhood home, and he came across a lovely little surprise. He found a sealed version of Kid Icarus for the NES, complete with receipt, all the way from 1988 even. And it's worth, well, put it this way, he sold it for $9,000. He found it, basically realized it was something that was potentially quite rare, something that was maybe worth something to collectors. And managed to sell it within a weekend, $9,000, and he split with his sister, who
Fantastic.
I mean, I'm assuming that basically something's happened. They've had to clean out the old family home, and he's found it, and that's why he's
Yeah.
split it. But basically, it's a Christmas gift that the family obviously forgot about, hence the receipt with it and stuff. There's no explanation for why this wasn't given in 1988 or anything like that. He just kind of found it years down the line. Kid Icarus is a pretty rare game. It's not something I was particularly familiar with until Smash Brothers. I think you mentioned before the podcast you played it on the Game Boy.
Yeah, I played the game. I was actually looking at some old gameplay before we came on. It was definitely the Game Boy version that I played at when I was younger at my childminder's house. So I did kind of play. I didn't know there was an actual NES full version. So I think it's a really nice story. It's quite cool as well when you think about kind of where games are and where they have been, and to see that there's still this dedication, this love, that there's kind of a price on. I don't want to say antique. I don't think it's quite there yet, but just kind of all-star retro games and rare games. I think one of the rarest games was the Nintendo World Cup special games that were kind of created just for the competition, the tournament, and those go for kind of tens of thousands.
Oh, it's the gold cartridges and things like that.
Yeah. So I didn't know Kid Icarus was rare until you mentioned it before the podcast. So it's interesting, and I wonder kind of. I mean, I'm not saying this is the reason why I hoard my games, but I wonder how many years down the line you'll think, oh, maybe this PS2 game is really rare. I wonder how much it costs now. Actually, to be fair, I have Assassin's Creed 2, the Black Edition, which was apparently the harder edition to get of the two. There's the White Edition and the Black Edition, and they both came with an Ezio figurine dressed in the edition colours. So mine has got kind of black, he's got black colours on. I was looking at it because I was cleaning the loft out last week, and it was going on eBay for about 70, 80 quid. And I remember buying it for about 50 quid.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's a similar one.
That's pretty good because it's only kind of last gen, really.
I have a similar one, and did this come up in the podcast? Because I feel like I've spoken to somebody about it recently. I bought the Halo 3 Legendary Edition, which is about £100, I think, when it came out, or 120 maybe. So that came with Halo 3, which was a huge deal at the time, a documentary DVD, and it was all encased in a replica Master Chief helmet, Mjolnir armor helmet. You can basically slot the games inside, and it would go on a stand. I had that shit for like 10 years, maybe a little bit less. Played the games to death. All the rest of it, they got packed away, but had this helmet hanging around for years. Took it to CX and got 100 quid just for the helmet.
Wow.
So
did you know that going in, or did you think?
Yeah, because I actually saw one in the window, and it was selling for like 120 quid, and I was like, hang on, that's what I paid for the game. So I basically took mine in. I looked it up, and it said, this is what it's worth. So I took mine in straight away because A, it cleaned up some space, and B, I pretty much made my money back.
That's right. That's awesome.
So yeah, things can retain value.
I mean, I'm a family man now and a working man. I've got to be much more careful with my pennies, but maybe 10, 15 years ago, I was getting almost any game I got was a collector's edition, and I've got loads of stuff. It was ridiculous. I think I've got all the God of War ones, and I've got
could be worth something.
Yeah, possibly.
I
had the Killzone one. I think Killzone 3 came with like a stand, which was essentially the Helgen helmet. And I bought loads of kind of Steelbook editions. I had like Devil May Cry 4 Steelbook edition. And
see, I bought the Halo 2 Steelbook edition. And it was probably a mistake because it rusted like a motherfucker, like years down the line.
It wasn't stainless steel then.
Yeah, apparently not. They were notorious for rusting through, like, a decade later. So I tend to stay away from steelbooks these days. But I have bought collector's editions for yonks.
Yeah, the only one I kind of regret it now. Well, maybe I don't know. Basically, the only one I wanted to get recently was Metal Gear Solid 5 because I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid nerd, and it came with kind of Snake's bionic arm.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my god, that'd be amazing, but I couldn't justify having a family and paying that much money, so I didn't do it in the end. I'm glad I did it because it would just be collecting dust. It would be kind of having pride place on the mantelpiece or anything.
Yeah, but I mean, having said that, are you going to get Death Stranding Special Edition?
I don't know what's in the Special Edition actually.
A baby in a pod.
I've already got one, so I'm good.
Is she in a pod?
No, she isn't. That's why I need to do this weekend. Find a little pod to pass out.
Hey, you've got a cosplayer you can do together. Yeah, that's maybe a bit much. The whole baby in a pod and all that crazy shit, and I am still not convinced Death Stranding is going to be even good, let alone great, and wanting to keep a prosthetic baby in the house as a result.
That's okay. You can't be right all the time, Ben. No problem.
I've got this horrible feeling that it's going to be Kojima without an editor, and it's going to be wanky as fuck. I mean, he's got.
I'm pretty much tooting the horn of the hype train, so I'm definitely going to get it kind of day one. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's best mates with, is it Nicholas Winding Refn, the director there, who did Drive. Now, I fucking love Drive, right? I think it's great, but it's a fairly arty thriller,
yeah,
for a mainstream movie. But I think the music's cool. I really like the visuals. It's a cool movie. I've seen a lot of his other movies, and they are wanky and arty. And if Kojima, I mean, he's in the game. He's the guy who was in that last trailer where you see him kind of coming back to life. Is it every 20 minutes or something? And there's this whole
the Hartman.
Yes. Oh, yes. Is it Hartman? Is that so similar?
Yeah.
Is that something? But yeah. So that's him. I don't think it's him doing the voice, but it's he's looking like the likeness of it. And if they're best mates and Kojima's taking any kind of notes off him, it's maybe not the best thing in the world.
I know what you're saying, because his stuff is kind of out there, but at the same time, there isn't really anything like that in the game industry anymore. I mean,
well, there's not, but
Peter Molyneux doesn't do that shit anymore. But like for example, movies, you've got kind of Martin Scorsese, and you've got kind of Steven Spielberg, and you've got kind of all these ones that do a lot of really good stuff with the cinematography and kind of the deeper meanings and things kind of working in the background and things in the foreground and how they kind of interchange. And there isn't anything like that in the game industry. So I could fully understand your position that it's quite arty and wanky, but
I don't think he does that though. I think everything's so literal that.
Me and you need to talk about Metal Gear Solid 2 next.
It's like, I think a lot of us, like Metal Gear Solid 5 is obviously the big point of contention because that's when him and Konami fell out and all the other drama. But the story is terrible.
Yeah, in 5, the story it's weird because in the previous games the story is the strongest bit and the gameplay is the weakest. Kind of switch for 5. I think that's why 5 was very disappointing for a lot of people, because if the story was just as good as the previous games, it would have been like a complete masterpiece.
So I mean, I'm gonna say a spoiler for Phantom Pain here. So if you haven't played it, why not by now? Because it is a legitimately great game, but the story is all over the fucking place. Like he's very good at like cinematography, but he's bad at story and character. I don't think his characters are great. They're all very literal metaphors and caricatures. So obviously at the start of the Phantom Pain, you're in the hospital and you're getting guided around by the guy with the bandages around his face. I can't remember the details. Within about 20 seconds, I was like, you're not Snake in this game. You're the guy. You're the guy you create in the character creator, and you're not Snake. You're just somebody who thinks he's Snake. And I played through the whole game thinking that, never been convinced otherwise. Never thinking, oh, have I been double bluffed? Are you really Snake? Even though it seems to suggest you're not. And it turned out, no, I was right. It wasn't clever. It wasn't particularly shocking. It's just like, all right, okay, great. Yeah, and what's worse is the whole thing cheapened the Metal Gear games, in that Big Boss from the original isn't Big Boss. It's Venom Snake, who's an imposter.
Yeah.
And Big Boss in Metal Gear 2 is indeed the real Big Boss.
Yeah, it does kind of retcon a lot of stuff, or it
doesn't add anything to the story.
I mean, he said it himself in many interviews, he was restrained by the previous law, with what he could do and what he'd like to do. So
I can understand why that. Do it?
Yeah, it's money, and it's kind of what the fans wanted. They always kind of wanted more. I mean, 3 was supposed to be his last, and then he made 4, and then 4 was supposed to be his last,
that's
and
it.
then he made...
I don't think it's got anything to do with the fans. I think it's got everything to do with him. He could do whatever he wanted. He could have gone to any other studio and done whatever he wanted, and he chose not to. He could not leave well enough alone. And everyone paints Konami as the bad guys, but in the back of my head, I've got this nagging feeling that they were just trying to fucking keep him in check. And
there's
who knows how
this
this is
mixture.
going to turn out.
Konami have kind of almost forgone their gaming division. Now it's just Pro Evo that they push out, and maybe a couple of other games here and there. And they've kind of moved on to the Pachinko machines and the gambling machines that they do. And I mean, there was kind of strong enough evidence to suggest that Konami wanted to get rid of Kojima as kind of the out with the old, in with the new kind of thing, and they weren't really happy with the amount of money he was spending and their returns, and because they were focusing on this new place of wealth. So I agree. I understand where you're coming from. It's not completely unfounded.
No, it's really not. I don't feel like I'm being ridiculous about the situation. It'll be interesting because let's face it, we've had 2 years of just nothing from that game. All flash, no substance.
The first 2 trailers have just maybe scratched my head. And it's only recently it's only recently where you can actually see the game. You think, yeah, there's the game.
And that's this whole like, it's a new type of action game. It's what did he say about it? It's a stranded action game or something like that.
Building bridges or something like that.
Well, Christ, isn't it Sam? Is it Sam Bridgman, the main kind of fuck me? Jesus Christ! It better be clever if this is the type of shit it's going for. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it just to see what it's like. But I'm cautiously optimistic. But again, not looking forward enough to dump like £100 plus into a plastic baby in a fucking incubator.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that is all the news I had this week, and I think we've been on quite a while now. So should we call it a day?
I'll very quick plug. No Man's Sky, the VR release is out next Wednesday, the 14th, I believe. I'll definitely be getting that and be playing that. So hopefully I'll have some first impressions and maybe some gameplay to put on the YouTube channel if you let me. Yeah,
I'm always up for that. Cool. You mentioned we could get online and play it. I don't think I've got No Man's Sky, but I will. So is this a new version that I'll have to buy?
No, it's the same old Man's Sky. You just have to download the patches, and then you can just stick your headset on, and that's the way it's supposed to be, and on you go. And it's not like you say, a watered down or a sectioned off version. It would be literally the proper game. So if I was playing without the headset, I could still meet you in game with the headset.
I'll see if it's on special anywhere and see if I can pick up a copy then, and then maybe we can get online.
Yeah. If you do, let me know.
I've got to get my classes through the academy in 5
months. Priorities. Yeah, you can't let your education fall.
Education. It's important. Got to get those turn-based battles in.
Yep.
Got to get my flying skills and my heavy armor skills up. But yeah, we'll try and sort something out and get some streaming. I haven't got anything really planned this week for game-wise. I think I'll just continue to plug through Fire Emblem. I want to get a video done for that. Maybe do some streaming for.
Try to get Sniper Elite as well.
Yeah, we'll try and do something like that. So it might be a busy week then.
Here we go. Reach that 12-hour mark.
That's it. Going for double. Pumping up those rookie numbers. All right, well, thanks, Cash. Thanks for joining me on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for listening, guys. Again, as per usual, you can find us on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, all the regular places. Just look for Plastic Moon and you'll find us. Subscribe to us, like us, all the rest of it. We will be back next week with hopefully lots of new stuff like we've just been talking about. So until then, thanks very much, and we'll see you all later.